finish eating my supper anyway.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, so Diane, if you don't mind, if you would put your microphone on mute, that would be awesome. And then you guys know the deal. Y'all can just unmute whenever you want and ask questions, okay? So awesome. Happy to have you guys tonight. It's like I said before, it's a small class, but we have a lot of people catching the recording. So let me show you the painting that we're doing tonight. It's going to be a fun one, a folky bird. And as always, you can do any color scheme that you want to do. If you have picked up kits from me, I'm going to teach this exact color scheme. I'll teach you how to mix all the colors, blend the paint, all of that kind of stuff. So we are using acrylic paint tonight, and this particular brand of acrylic paint, for the sake of the class, don't mix it with water. I know the tendency is to grab your paintbrush, dip it in water, and start mixing it with your paint. Try not to do that. The way we're going to work the class tonight is by painting lots of thin layers for the most part, and you want your layers to dry pretty quickly so we can move on to the next step. And this paint tends to be a bit transparent. So if you add water to it, it's going to make it even more transparent. So we're going to want to add a lot of layers to make it nice and opaque, but we need those layers to dry quickly. So everybody should have 4 brushes tonight. We're going to be using our background brush. It's your largest brush. We're going to use a size 8 flat. This is called a flat brush when it's rectangular and flat across the top. We're going to use a size 3 round. It's a smaller rounded brush. And we're going to use a detail brush. And any size detail brush is fine. Anything from a size 1 and under. There's lots of different variations that you can get there. So for those of you who have kits that need to be set up, this is what my palette looks like tonight. Okay, I like to kind of keep my paint kind of spread out. So if you have your tubs of paint, you can use a plastic spoon or knife and kind of scoop out the paint, or you could tap the tubs on the side, however that works for you. Don't take out all of your paint. You want to leave some paint in your tubs just in case you need to stop painting early, or you just want extra paint left over. If you need to fix something later, then at least you have paint that you can come out and you can get. So I'm going to show you my palette one more time. I've got I'm going to angle this down just a little bit. I've got my red, yellow, blue, my black, white, and these are my 2 browns side by side. We are hardly using our browns tonight, so we just need the tiniest bit of those. So don't worry too much about those. I know some of you have kits from me and I put them in the same tub, and that's fine. We're mixing them together anyway, so no big deal. I have my canvas right in front of me. This is portrait position versus landscape position. So put it in front of you in portrait position so it's all ready for you. And then I have my cup of water and I have my paper towel. Okay, so I'm right-handed, so I like to put everything right next to me so I can just do all of my mixing and grabbing with my right hand, and everything right there is pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to give you guys a second to finish getting your palettes put together, and I'll show you the painting one more time. I do also recommend that if you have an extra iPad or your phone or computer or whatever, you pull that up, pull up this image. It's on the Humble Life Facebook page, a couple posts down. If you pull that up, you can have it for reference. That way, anytime you need to check on something and I don't have this up so that you can see it, you can check and you can see kind of what I'm talking about. We are going to be using a white paint pen tonight. So these are included in your kits, and those of you who have ultimate paint kits, you guys have these as well in your paint kit. That's what all of this detail work is done with. So see those wings and see the little lines, all of that. We use our white paint pen for that. So it comes in super, super handy, unless you feel like doing all of this detail work with the paintbrush. More power to you, but that will take a little bit of time. So so anyway, those are the tools that you're gonna need tonight, and I'm gonna just wait a minute or so and see if anybody else is gonna hop on. I have my messenger open, so if you guys have if you want to send me messages about your process as you're going, you're more than welcome to do that. I'm happy to check that. But also just show me tonight, unmute, and let me know if you have questions about anything, and we can go from there. Okay, I'm just gonna check on a few people real quick and see if they're gonna come tonight. Otherwise, we can get going. Okay. Okay, you guys. Well, this is fun. It's like gonna be like a little private party. Okay, so let's get going. Are you guys gonna be doing, you think, this color scheme tonight? Probably so. Okay, cool. So I'll teach it exactly then. Let me get a little bit of coffee. Okay. So first things first, we're gonna start with our background color, and it's kind of this kind of a melony, kind of a tropical pinkish color. Okay, so you can mix any variation of this, but I am gonna recommend, because we're using a lot of blues, you wanna keep your background pretty bright and bold if you plan on mixing all these other colors kind of the way I'm teaching them tonight, because we really want contrast. That's what's really working for this painting, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our largest brush and we're gonna mix this background color. The way we're gonna do it is we're gonna grab yellow, red, and white. Now our red is super powerful, so we don't need a ton. So I'm just gonna grab a bit, like about a corner or so on my brush, bring it over to my yellow. They're right next to each other, and start kind of blending them together. And I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna grab a big chunk of white, okay? Nice, big, healthy chunk of white, and bring it over here too. And I'm gonna start mixing those together. Okay, and I'm gonna see what I get. Now, remember, the goal, you guys, is not necessarily to mix the exact color that I'm mixing, but you wanna mix a color that you enjoy looking at, okay? If you're gonna keep this painting and hang it up on your wall, you're gonna wanna enjoy the colors. So make a color that you like, okay? So I'm liking this color. Now you want a lot of it because this is your background. So don't be afraid to really dive into your paint here and use a lot of paint to mix this. We have to cover our entire background. So see how my pink is, the blob is just as big as my yellow and my red, right? Okay. So I have that all nice and mixed. It's mixed pretty solidly. It's not very marbled. Sometimes we marble our paint. This is pretty solid. Our background is, it's pretty solid. And the look of this painting tonight is very folky. When folk artists paint, they paint with blocks of color. So that's kind of what we're doing tonight, okay? So we're gonna cover our whole canvas. Let me move over a little bit. So we're gonna cover our entire canvas, okay? I have a ton of paint on my brush because I've just mixed a color. So you can paint any way you want. If you wanna be up and down, if you wanna be side to side, if you wanna paint in swirls, I mean, it doesn't really matter at all. What you wanna do is just cover your entire canvas, okay? And that's gonna include your top edge, your side, your bottom, and your other side edge as well. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a minute to get your canvases covered. You should only need to do one coat of this color. It has a lot of white in it, and that white is really nice and opaque. So anytime we mix white with a color, with this particular brand of paint, it helps it with the opacity, okay? Okay, I'm also really kind of using all the paint that I have on my canvas and really spreading it out as much as I can before I go back to get more paint, okay? That's really gonna help me, help my background dry quicker because I'm really putting on a nice thin coat, but I'm still making sure that it's nice and opaque at the same time, okay? So just remember that. We want nice layers that are gonna dry quickly. Some people prefer to paint their edges first. Go all the way around, paint your edges, and then paint your center. It's whatever you want to do, whatever you feel best doing. Okay. So when you have your edges all nice and painted, it's just really good craftsmanship. you can go ahead when you're done and you can hang your painting up on the wall and you don't have to worry about getting it framed or anything like that. And it's just nice and ready to go. Nice and pretty and polished. Okay. It's always tricky too to gauge how much paint you need to mix in order to cover your whole background. But if you need to mix any more paint to get your background covered, go ahead and do that. Just try to match the color the best you can. That's always a little bit tricky to do. Okay, I'm going to set mine down for just a second, just so I can get this last section done. Scoop up as much paint as I can. All right, when you're done with your background, one thing I like to do before I clean my brush is I'll just take my paintbrush and I'll just gently sweep over my background, just lightly. And what that does is it just picks up any extra excess paint, okay, and kind of spreads it out for you. And it also just helps your canvas dry nice and quickly, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys just a minute to kind of finish up with your background. I'm gonna mix a little bit more of this color. I ran out, but I've got a few little white spots left here that I wanna get. Gotta make sure I match this color. Let's see. Okay, that's pretty close. Not bad. When you're done with your background, you can just drop this brush in the water. We're not going to use it anymore tonight. Okay. And Diane and Gloria, you guys tell me when you're done and I'll follow y'all's lead tonight. Okay, so you guys just let me know when you're ready. Cool. And we'll go from there.
Okay. This isn't too dark, is it?
From here, it doesn't look too dark at all.
Okay.
You know, and when I was hanging up, when I show my painting, it looks a lot darker than it does in real life. Like here, it's not this dark. I was trying to compare it, you know, they're really similar, but for some reason this looks lighter, and it could just be because the blues are already on the canvas. I can't tell.
Okay.
I don't know, but this is where I'm at. It looks very similar to yours. So
Yeah, okay.
we'll see what happens. Okay, you guys. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put in our branch. Okay, so our branch starts down in this bottom corner and it travels up to this corner up here, okay? It doesn't go all the way to this corner. It kind of stops, you know, about a third of the way up. We're just gonna draw in our branch, and that's just gonna kind of map out where we need to put everything, like our bird and these weird flowers and leaves and everything. So we don't need much paint for this. I'm gonna use my size 3 round, and I'm gonna come over to my palette, and I'm gonna grab a little bit of white and equal parts dark brown and equal parts red brown. Okay, those two browns that you have mixed, mix them together and just get something. So I'm getting kind of a a tannish color. Okay, just like a good medium brown, you know, good old branch brown, whatever that is for you. It does not really matter. Any brown is fine. But you definitely want a good medium one. So mix these two together and add a little bit of white so that it's nice and opaque. Okay, I think I'm okay with that. It's okay if your background is not dry yet. It doesn't really matter, especially since this this brown is it's a warm brown. Okay, I'm gonna actually add a little more white to mine, lighten it up a little bit because I really do want it to show up on the screen. Sometimes my colors don't show up the way I'd like them to. Okay, I'm actually also gonna pull this computer a little bit closer here. Oh, okay. I think that's gonna work better for us. There we go. Okay, so let's get our branch in. Okay, so I'm gonna just start at this bottom corner here, and I'm just gonna kind of draw a nice gentle curve up towards this corner. So I'm just gonna do one nice little sweep up about like so. You can't even really see it all the way, right? Let me get it a little bit darker for you. Okay, just kind of a line that's dividing up our canvas. So notice it's not going all the way to the top, right? But it's just kind of dividing our canvas. From the bottom area down here, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna just kind of swoop outward and give ourselves a branch, a limb. And on the other side, I'm gonna do the same thing, but a little bit smaller. Okay. Now, once I have these lines, I'm gonna go in with my brush and I'm gonna slowly just kind of even them out, okay? I'm just gonna make it a nice, smooth, solid line. So just taking a little bit more paint.
Are those coming out from the same point, the two branches that you drew in, or no?
They're very close. Yeah, they're very close. They don't have to come out from the same point, but they could be close to each other. Okay, so I'm just smoothing out my branch. Okay. And I'm done with this color. We don't need it anymore tonight. If you want to, we're not really going to see it in the end, but you can go ahead and about midway up your branch, you can make another little limb kind of come off like so. Just a little one. In the end, we're not really going to see it. I'll show you that it's just going to be for this little section right here where it's going to come off, but you see our bird is hiding most of it. So. Okay. So we're gonna go and we're gonna mix up our turquoise color next, okay? And we're gonna paint in these big teardrop leaf shapes, okay? So the way we make this color is we're gonna use our blue, our yellow, and our white, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab white, okay, a nice big chunk, and I'm using my size 8 flat, okay? So I switched over to my size 8 flat. I'm gonna come right in between my yellow and my blue, and I'm gonna pull over just a little bit of blue here. Well, a good amount of blue, right? And just a little bit of my yellow. And I'm gonna mix these together. Okay, a little bit of yellow, a lot of bit of blue, a lot of bit of white, okay? And I'm gonna get a really pretty turquoise color. I'm gonna add more white. You do want it to be lighter than you think. It'll show up really nice on this bold, bold background, okay? The more yellow you add to it, the more turquoisey it's gonna get. Okay, so feel free to kind of experiment with that a little bit and see what you can come up with. Remember, you wanna mix a color that you enjoy looking at, okay? But that yellow just gives it that edge, that turquoisey edge. It's really nice. You could just mix a light blue if you just are more of a blue person, okay? But I like that turquoisey color. I think it's pretty. Okay. So that's kind of the color I've come up with right in there. Okay. Now I'm just gonna take my brush, since it has lots of gobs of paint on it, I'm just gonna wipe it on the side of my palette here. Just kind of wipe it a little bit. Leave a lot of paint on because I need it, but not too much. Now we're gonna use this brush to draw in all of our teardrops, okay? Now there's two ways that you can hold this brush. You guys know this, but for everybody else, when you're using a brush like this, you can use the thin side, holding it on its side like so, or you can turn it to the wide side. So I could draw this and get a really wide line, or I can turn my brush on the side, and I'm gonna draw this first teardrop so you can see what I mean. I'm gonna draw a teardrop kind of upward like so. And notice that's a relatively thin line because I was holding my brush on the thin side. If I were to hold it on the thick side, I would get a thick line like that, okay? So you wanna hold your brush on the thin side and draw yourself a teardrop shape coming off of this first limb. Now, all of your teardrops are gonna be different sizes. This one is one of the larger ones. So I'm gonna draw one. I'm gonna go ahead and fill it in, and I'm pressing down on the wide side of my brush to really nicely fill that in. You might end up needing to do 2 coats of paint. It's gonna depend, okay? Because I can kind of see my background color showing through a little bit. Okay, so right off the side here, I'm gonna do 2 more smaller teardrops. 1 and 2, right off that same point, okay? And then up here, I'm gonna fit in a 4th one, really kind of tall and thin, okay? Once you have those shapes, you can go ahead and fill them in. Okay, now don't try to give your second coat on these until your paint is totally dry. So let's just leave these alone for a little while. We're gonna move on to our other branch, our little limb down here. So it's the same idea. I have 4 teardrops that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do my first one kind of leaning upwards like so. I'm gonna do another one out to the side like so. Then I'm gonna do 2 smaller ones. 1, 2. Okay, and once I have those shapes, I'm just gonna go ahead and fill them in. Okay. So I'm gonna move up to this little guy right here that we drew in, and I'm just gonna draw in 1 teardrop. and fill that guy in. And then up in the top, we have 5. And I'm going to start with my biggest one first. And I'm going to start a little bit lower on my branch. I drew my branch a little bit taller than I intended to. So I'm going to start down here. And I want my teardrop to be really nice and big and tall. And it goes all the way up into that corner there. And I'm going to do one out to the side that's just as tall, but a little bit thinner. And then again, a little bit thinner, and then on either side as well. I'm running out of paint. Really, however they fit. Okay. So they're all slightly different sizes. It's not perfectly symmetrical, okay? Just kind of wonky a little bit. I'm gonna fill those in. Now, once I have these guys all filled in, my first coat here, okay, I'm gonna go back to my first set and I'm gonna give it a nice second coat. Now, when you're doing a second coat on these, you're gonna see how much brighter my paint is, okay? It always comes up a little bit brighter, and your second coat is always a bit quicker because you already have established the shape. So now you're just kind of running over them. So go over each one of your teardrops with a nice, crisp second coat. It's all right if some of your shapes are kind of running together. When we work with our paint pen later, we will definitely pull these out and they will each have their own bodies. So it's okay if they're kind of blending together right now. Okay, see how quick that's going? Up here. Okay. All right. Second coat's on everybody. Kind of blobby, and that's totally fine. So I'm gonna wash my brush out. I want to get all the white and lightness off of it because we're gonna go start working on our bird next, okay? So I'll show you our bird. He's a nice, or he or she is a nice, dark, rich navy blue. So we're gonna mix that by actually using a little bit of black. I don't love mixing black with color, but we will tonight. Sometimes it doles out the color a little bit, but in this case, it actually works pretty well. So I'm gonna take a little bit of black, try a little bit first, see how much I have on there, try a little bit first, and then just see how far you can get with that. Okay, I'm gonna pull in my blue. Now this blue is definitely very transparent. So we are gonna have to work in layers. I'm gonna add more black here and see what happens. My hand is in the way, I know. Okay. Okay, I think I'm okay. I'm okay with this blue. So we're gonna draw out the shape of our bird, but it is gonna have to be painted in layers, okay? And that's okay. I'm gonna wipe off the gobs of paint off on my palette so I have a nice smooth brush, but I still have a lot of paint on it, okay?
Which brush are you using?
I'm still using my 8,
Okay.
my flat 8. Okay, so our bird got a nice straight back. If you were to take this wing away, okay, we have a nice straight back, and it angles from this corner up here down to this corner down here. Okay, so that's our angle. So knowing that, I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna use the thin side to draw this, okay? I'm gonna start right about kind of level with my, this leaf right here. Right about level here and over a little bit. And right about here is gonna be about the top of my head. So I'm gonna curve just a little bit, give myself a curve here, okay? And then I'm gonna angle down, like I said, from one corner to another. Kind of angle down till I get to about here. Now this is gonna be the end of my tail. Okay, so this is the top of my head, angling all the way down, and that's gonna be the first feather in my tail, okay? So that's about the shape that we're gonna jump off of here, okay? So I know that this is gonna be my tail down here, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up about, I don't know, roughly about 2 inches or so, okay? And I'm really gonna use the thin side of my brush. Let me get a little more paint here. And I'm gonna use the shape of this brush to make my tail feathers. So I'm gonna go about 2 inches up, and I'm gonna kind of fan almost. I'm gonna go right next to it and pull down. Go right next to it and pull down. So I have 3 feathers. I'm gonna do 4, looks like about 7. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So they're right next to each other. They fan a little bit. They kind of are pulled together a bit here, and they open up a little bit towards the end. Okay, not a super fan, but you see that's just kind of a subtle fanning. And once again, I just used the thin side of my brush to kind of pull down that way. Now I might make them a little bit longer, but for now they're okay. I just kind of needed to map that out so I could kind of see them. And notice too, you can see my background colors showing through, and that's just fine. This is just a map for right now, okay? So once I have those tail feathers, it doesn't really matter how many. Like I said, I have 7. Maybe you can only fit 6. Maybe you want 5. Maybe you want 10. I don't know. I'm gonna continue using this brush, and I'm gonna kind of angle in. I guess actually no, I'm angling out just a little bit. I'm gonna give myself a little line right there. And now I'm gonna bring in the belly. So I'm gonna kind of swoop outward a little bit and up nice and gracefully towards the neck, okay? Now I'm coming in right here, kind of a little bit of a hook, like an elongated S. I've gotta develop the bulk of my head here, but I don't wanna go there yet. I'm just getting the body of my bird first before I develop that head. I'm gonna use a smaller brush for the head of my bird, okay? But once I have this shape, I'm just gonna go ahead and use the paint that's on my brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill it in. And I'm painting with the contours, towards the contours that I've already drawn. Okay, so I'm painting rounded because I have the belly of the bird, kind of following the anatomy of the bird, and I'm painting. So I'm not painting side to side or up and down, but I'm following the curves that I've already drawn, or the straight lines. Fill this in. It's all right if it's a little bit transparent. Remember, you just want to lay in a nice thin coat and let it dry, and we'll go back over it. I'm gonna come down here to my tail feathers, and I'm gonna give myself another coat on my tail feathers because you can see how transparent they are, and I'm gonna elongate them just a bit. So I'm gonna start down here, and I'm just gonna pull, go over each one, just pull them out a little bit more. When I get to the end down here, you see how I'm getting kind of almost a point? I'm doing that by just flicking my wrist upward quickly, just a little bit when I get to the end. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I come out and then I just kind of up, okay? Following it down and just kind of up. Okay. And by the time I've kind of reworked my tail, and once again too, it's okay if you can kind of see my tail, you can kind of see that, that light blue showing through a little bit. That's okay, because we're gonna be going over this with other colors as well, so you probably won't even see that anymore, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna give my belly of my bird one more coat, kind of quickly, not being very precise. See, I'm just kind of smearing that paint on. Okay. With my tail a little bit more right here. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna drop this brush in the water. And I'm gonna pull my size 3, the brush that we used for our branch. I'm gonna get it nice and dry. It's really important that you get all of the water out of the bristles of the brush and especially off of this metal part right in here. You don't want any water droplets because you'll go to start painting and you'll have a water droplet that just kind of drips down your brush, and that's not fun at all. Okay, so I'm going to continue with this dark blue color, and I'm just going to work my head a little bit, but I have more control because I have a smaller brush, okay? So our beak is very, very close to the top of the head. So this line that I've already drawn, this little hook, if I were to, I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit here. Make them a little bit taller. Now, if I were to come right down, right here is where my beak is going to be. So I'm not going to draw it in, but I know that's right about where my beak is going to be. Okay, so if I were to like draw my beak, it's just a little triangle. When I come back in, my neck kind of comes down nice and smoothly. Okay. So that's my joining line right there. It meets right nice with the belly. I'm going to go ahead and fill this shape in. When I get to where my beak is, I'm going to leave like kind of a straight line almost. I'm not curving it there. You see that? I'm kind of like leaving it straight so that I know that's where my beak goes. Okay. I'm going to get really nice and close up to my edge. I want a nice crisp edge. Okay. So then just kind of take a look, give yourself a little perspective, look at your painting and see if you are okay with the shape of your bird. And if you're not okay with it, see, you can ask me, you can show me your bird and we can see what we can do to figure out its shape. Or just, you know, play with it a little bit. Maybe you need to make the belly a little bit bigger. Maybe the tail needs to be a little bit longer. Okay, just kind of look at that and see what you think needs to happen. But by all means, you guys ask me as well. I'm happy to help you. I'm going to level this part out real quick. There we go.
Can you see it?
Beautiful. Nice, elegant shape.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My bird's tummy is growing. I keep trying to smooth out this edge and keep making them bigger and bigger. Sorry, dude.
Well fed.
Yeah, seriously.
It's a boy bird for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
I can say that because you're a boy mom.
That's true. That is true. All right, you guys. So let's see. Let's let our bird dry. We want this navy blue to get nice and dry. So while it's drying, go ahead and wash out your size 3. We're gonna start working some of our flowers in the background. Are you guys okay with your bird shapes? Okay. So let's let that navy blue dry for a while. So the other work that we do on top of them won't get muddy, it won't get lost. You guys are so easy. Just move right along. Okay, so let's.
We have a good teacher. We've done this once or twice.
Yeah, you guys definitely have done this once or twice. I don't know how many paintings you guys have been to. It's been a lot. Okay, so let's move into these white flowers. Okay, so they're very simple. The shape is simple. It has 3 points to it and they round, okay? Notice that they're going in different directions. This one's kind of coming this way, this one's coming up this way, this one more this way, and this one more upward. So it doesn't really matter how you position them, just position each one kind of different, okay? I think I'm gonna start at the top and we'll work our way down, okay? So I'm gonna use white paint. Plain old white paint and my size 3 brush. I'm not mixing anything in with this, just plain old white paint, okay? Now in my original painting, I have this flower. He's kind of just floating. If you look at it, it's not anchored to anything. I almost feel like I should maybe paint some kind of a branch. But I think for this painting, I'm gonna turn it. I'm gonna angle it a little bit so that it's more anchored towards here. So you can decide, you know, what you want to do. It feels like these are all on a branch and maybe I forgot to put a branch on him or something. I don't know what I did. So I'm going to angle it kind of more attached here, okay? So the way we're going to do this, however you want to angle your flower, I paint a U shape first. So I'm going to paint my U. And I'm actually going to paint a little bit wider. I want a wider U. I don't want it to kind of angle out like so. Okay, you see the adjustment there? And from the middle of my U, I'm going to paint a nice almond. I have a nice almond in the middle, and then I can connect my other lines right here. Okay, so I have that almond in the middle, and then I have 2 almonds just kind of coming out to the side here. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. And it will be transparent. You will see the color coming through, and that's just fine. And once you have it filled in, you can take a look at it and you can paint to make it more proportionate. You can fix your lines a little bit. I'm going to fix mine. So you want all 3 of your petals to be about the same size. Okay. So you're left with a shape similar to that. And each one of these flowers is a different size also. So the next one we do over here is probably going to be the biggest. And then the 2 down here are smaller in size, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move on down to this guy over here. He takes up a lot of room. Yeah, very cute. Yep, very cute. Perfect. I'm going to do the same thing over here, you guys, except bigger, just a little bit bigger. I'm going to make kind of a wider open U. From the center, I'll make an almond. Then I'll make an almond out to the side. An almond out to the other side. And then I'll fill it in. And then I will adjust to make everybody the same size. Feels like I'm a bit heavy-handed tonight. My shapes are all a bit bolder than in my original painting. They're bigger and they're bolder. So I don't know what kind of painting mood you guys are in, but I feel like painting big tonight, I guess. Everything's a lot bigger. Okay. My 3 petals are slightly different in size, but I kind of like that they're a little wonky. So I'm gonna let them be. I'm okay with them like that. I'm gonna do 2 more down here, and then we'll go back and we'll do 1 solid white coat, our second coat on all of these flowers, okay? So there is one down here, and he starts to overlap our bird a bit, okay? It doesn't quite go over the wing, but it does just kind of touch the bottom, the belly here. And it's attached to this branch. So I'm gonna kind of come out here and up like so. Do my almond in the middle, almond to the sides. Okay. Take a look, seems a little wonky. Okay. And we've got 1 more to go. This one's gonna be my smallest down here. I know I keep saying that and then I paint really big, but I'm gonna do my last one down here, kind of attached to this limb. Okay. So there's my 4. And you can add as many of these as you want. You can make this as busy, as full as you want. I'm gonna adjust them a little bit. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do my second coat. So I'm gonna start at the first one because that's gonna be the driest. I'm just gonna lay on a nice thin coat. We are gonna add other color to these flowers, so they don't need to be perfectly opaque. And a little bit of color showing through will work in your favor. It will look a little bit like some shading without trying, so you'll get some dimension. Okay. My last one down here. The second coat always goes so much quicker. Okay. I'm not going to wash my brush. We're going to use it in just a moment, so let it be. So I still have white on my brush, and I'm going to go in and take a little more white, and I'm going to mix a very light pink by adding just a tiny bit of red. So I'm just kind of coming on the corner of my palette here, the corner of my red, just getting a really simple light pink. Any shade of pink will do. Okay, that's kind of where I'm at right there. And I'm going to lay this color into my flowers a little bit. So I'm just gonna do like a couple of streaks, kind of just feathering upward, starting from the middle and kind of going upward to each of my almonds. About 2 or 3 paint strokes per almond. You know, I'm just kind of feathering upward. Okay, something like that. Some of them are long, some of them are short. Everyone is different. Okay. That one down there, little. I'm not gonna wash my brush yet either, but I am gonna just let those pinks dry for just a minute. And while those pinks are drying, I'm gonna put in our red berries. Okay, so these are kind of scattered everywhere, and notice they're really nice and plump. They're nice and big, but they're just gonna start as red dots. We'll go in and we'll add a little bit of lightness and darkness a little bit later, but we're just gonna start with red dots. And it doesn't matter if you have this pink on your brush. I'm gonna just kind of wipe it on my paper towel a little bit over here. Nothing, no big deal, okay? And I'm gonna just take a smidge of white really, but really get into my red. I'm not mixing white in there to make it lighter. So I'm just mixing it just to make it a little bit more opaque. So it does become a slightly lighter color, but not by much, okay? I don't even know if you can really see the difference in my reds. I can barely see it. I'm still using my size 3 round. And I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna just make these big bulbs, big happy circles, okay? So you can plug these in anywhere you want, but where you can just kind of follow me around and see where I put them. I'm gonna put 2 up here, okay? One of them is gonna kind of overlap my petal here. I'm gonna do one right about here. Okay. And one up a little higher. Okay. Let me make this one just a little bigger. These are all roughly the same size. Okay, and I'm gonna do 3 down here. Do pretty close to my branch. One out here, one right here. Okay. I'm gonna do one right down here. Then I'm gonna do 3 over here. So I'm gonna do 1 here, 1 up here, 1 over here. Okay. So since we have red on our brush already, we can go in and we're gonna paint these little guys. I don't know if you noticed them on our white flowers. There's little pink hidden petals, okay? So since we already have red, we're already halfway there. I'm even just gonna go into my same pink section that we already kind of made. And I'm just gonna make this a little bit darker. Okay, it's not red, it's definitely still a lighter pink, but it's darker than the pink that we were already painting with for the center of our flowers. So just a good medium pink. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna come between your 2 white petals and you're gonna draw in, I don't know if you can see that, you're gonna draw in 2 more petals in that like kind of cone shape, that almond shape. You see those? Okay. So you're just going to visit every flower and draw those in. Okay. So since I have this pink on my brush already, I'm gonna make a little bit more of it real quick on my palette here. And I'm gonna make it a little bit darker, but I'm gonna use this color in my berries. So I'm just gonna come through real quick on each of my berries and I'm gonna paint like a U, like a really quick U. So I don't know if it's gonna show up too much in the camera, but I'll show you. I've got this lighter color on my brush. I'm just gonna swoop through like so. See, I'm just pressing my brush down and pulling upward. Pressing down, pulling up with a slightly lighter red, another pink, right? And just pulling through a little bit of a highlight. I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm just putting it on there. See if you can see some of those. Hardly, huh? Maybe somewhere in there. Some little U's. The last thing we need to do for our berries is actually go in with a darker red. So I'm gonna just wipe off this lighter red. I'm gonna grab a tiny bit of black, come to my red here. We do not need much of this at all. You just want a little bit of a dark red. And then in the opening of your U, you're just gonna do a little dash. A dot, a dash. And I did them dark so you can see them better. That feels very dark to me. I'm gonna lighten that up a little bit, but you can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay. We'll go over it just a little bit lighter. If you go too dark also, all you need to do is take red, just pure red, and go right over it. It will push it right into the background for you better.
And what did you do? You put a U into the red cherries?
Yes. Just a U with like a lighter pink. You might be able to see it on my original painting better if you get real close. Not even a U. I mean, kind of, you know, just kind of it's almost a quick, just little mark that just kind of frames the outside part. You can see them down in here really well.
Okay.
Okay, and then that dark dash or dot is at the top of the U, where the U opens.
Okay.
Okay, but this isn't an exact, I mean, when you look at this from a distance, it really is just kind of some smeary brush strokes together. But when you break it down, you've got a circle, okay, a red circle. We've got a dark pink U within that circle and a dark red dash dot. That's all that makes up this shape. So I think we're just gonna do one more thing, and it's 8:07, so it'll be a good time to take a 5-minute break. And then you can catch up on anything that you need to catch up on, rework your cherries, or work your flowers a little more if you wanna change the shape of your bird. But the last thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna take some dark blue. You can use the same blue that you already used on your bird to draw his body. I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit for myself, and we're just gonna go into each of our flowers, starting at the base, and just give a couple of lines here. I'm gonna go into each one and just kind of come upward and out. Upward and out. Okay. So I'll show you guys where we're at and where we're going. We're moving right along. So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Diane, Gloria, do you guys have any questions before we take a break? Are you guys kind of doing okay?
Good.
Okay, all right. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes or so. If you guys want to work on anything you need to work on when we come back, we'll start working on the body of our bird a little bit more. I think the hardest part, honestly, is over. We're gonna put in our beak and our eye, the wings, and then we'll work with our paint pen a bit, okay? All right, cool.
Nice.
You watching the Astros?
Yep, can you hear it? Rick's got the game on in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I don't think John's watching it. I'm gonna go remind him.
I think it just started at 8.
Yeah, fourth pitch of the ball game.
Springer just hit a home run, 4th pitch of the ball game.
Too loud.
No, I'm gonna mute it again.
All right, you guys, how are y'all doing? Okay? Catching up okay? All right, great. Okay, so let's see here. This is where we're at, and this is where we're going. I think next we're gonna work on our wings. Kind of develop those a little bit. Get those going. So we're gonna jump back into our size 3 brush. So get that brush nice and clean if it's not already. Get all the water off of the bristles and off of the metal part of the brush. And we're gonna work with a couple different blues. So I'll show you this in the painting. So you see the color of our bird, that nice navy blue, right? And then we have 3 parts to our wing. We have this pretty red pinkish part. We have a turquoise part, right? But it's not as light as the turquoise of our leaves. It's a little bit darker. And then we have another blue that's a darker blue, but not quite as dark as our background blue, right? Okay. So we're gonna start, gosh, let's see. So tricky to see here. We're gonna start with the bottom part of our wing and kind of work upward, I think. I think that's the best way to do this. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix a blue that is a dark blue, but it's not as dark as our background, okay? So, the background of our bird. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of white with my clean size 3 brush, and I'm gonna bring it over to the blue that I had already mixed for my background bird, okay? Just mix a little bit of white into that. Put a little more blue in there. So essentially I've got blue, black, and white. That's kind of what I'm looking at here. Okay, so a very dull blue, not necessarily dark, but it's a bit duller. Okay, when I mix a color with a round brush, I will roll my brush in the paint or on the palette and pull it away, and that gets all the gobs off, and it leaves me with a kind of a point to my brush too, which is what we want. Okay, so when we are looking at the wing of our bird, the wing really takes up a huge chunk of the body of our bird, okay? And so we're gonna be starting at the bottom part of our wing, and we're gonna add the other parts to it, okay? So if, here, I'll show you the painting so you can kind of see. So see how the wing takes up a huge part of our bird? We're gonna be painting this bottom part in first, okay? So notice here, there's just a thin strip of body of his back that we can see, and a thin part of his belly that we can see, okay? And it tapers, you know, the body gets wider as it gets down, and the wing does that as well, right? It follows that shape, okay? So note those things when we start drawing this in. Okay, so I'm gonna start towards the bottom. So I know that my wing kind of sweeps down here, kind of just brushes the top of this flower, okay? And I know that it has a little bit of space here. So I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna lighten this up more than I should so that you can actually see it better on camera. So y'all don't paint with a color this light, but I will so that you can kind of see, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of come in towards the bottom of my bird, and I'm gonna lay in the first feather, and it's gonna lean towards the tail. So that's the first feather of my wing. I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got about 9 feathers, and every time I paint in a feather, which is basically about a line, I'm gonna taper it along the belly of my bird here, okay? So I'm gonna lay my brush down over this line and I'm gonna pull upward, okay? First feather. I'm gonna do it again. Kind of like we did for our tail, right? Third feather. My fourth feather. Fifth. 6th, 7th, 8th. And when I get to my ninth feather, notice how short he is. So my first feather is nice and long, and as I travel across, they gradually get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now I have that nice line established, okay? I'm just gonna elongate this top part a bit more because I'm gonna be overlapping with my other blue section. So I'm gonna elongate this a bit more. Okay, just kind of fill in that space. And I do want my wing to kind of come down a bit more. So I'm gonna elongate all of them a little bit down here too. You can decide if you feel like you need to do that or not. It's a preference thing. I just want my wing to be a bit bigger. But notice how just one brush stroke, pulling your arm and your hand upward makes that feather shape. You did not have to draw that. Your brush did all of that for you, okay? So while we still have this color, let's go ahead and start pulling out our other wing on our other side. Okay, so it is off of the back of our bird. So we're gonna be adding to our bird, okay? We're not painting on top of what we already have. We're painting on the other side of the back side of our bird, okay? And we only see about 4 or 5 feathers each time. Okay, so we have this part here. Okay, so I'm gonna go right to where my wing would meet on the other side over here. I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna be a little bit more narrow. I'm gonna go right along the back of my bird and come upward and come even further up. I'm gonna do that 3 times. You see that? Right on the back of my bird. I'm gonna do that 3 times. And actually, this last feather, the feather farthest from his back, actually does need to be the longest height-wise. So I'm just gonna make this whole section just a little bit wider, or I'm sorry, a little bit longer. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna take this color, I'm gonna wipe it off, and I'm gonna come in, and I want like a cross between this light turquoise color that we used for our leaves and this dark blue that we just made for our wing. I want a cross between those 2 colors. So I don't have much of this turquoise color left. Might make a little bit more real quick. I'm not gonna add as much white. And I'm gonna pick up some of this dark blue and try to get it in here too, okay? Any blue that you make is gonna be fine, as long as it's darker than your leaves, but lighter than the color of the bottom part of your wing. Okay, any shade will be just fine. Okay, good medium blue. I'm okay with that blue, I think. Yeah, I might need to go a little lighter because mine's very light because I'm trying to help it show up. Okay. I think I'm okay with that. Okay, so I mixed with my color, so I'm gonna roll my brush. Hang on. Okay, now I'm gonna roll my brush to get all the gobs off, get a nice point. Let's see if this shows up contrasting enough. It might not. So I think the hardest part of the wing was already done. So now we're just copying this shape. And we're gonna do it over. We're gonna overlap, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna follow the pattern that I've already established. And I'm gonna go a little ways down this wing because I can. So I'm gonna go about, I don't know, 1/4 down this wing, press my brush down and pull upward and do my first feather. My second feather. I'm doing the same thing. Going right across, and I pull up a little bit every time. Okay. I'm going to go back on top of that and just elongate that a little bit more up here because I'm going to overlap, and I know that. Now you don't have to do feather for feather. You know, maybe this time across you did 6 or 7 feathers, whereas this bottom time you did 9. Maybe this time you did 10. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can do as many feathers as you want. Now we're going to do it on the outside wing also. Okay, so same idea. I'm gonna piggyback right on his back here, and I'm gonna pull up right along that line that I've already drawn for his back. I want to keep that back nice and crisp. I'm gonna do 1 feather. I might, you know, I did 3 originally. I might try to fit in 4 feathers here, just for the sake of showing. And as I'm doing this, I'm angling upward. I'm getting closer and closer to his body, okay? Let your brush do all the work. I'm gonna jump back to that medium blue that we used on the first part of our feathers. And I'm gonna give my bottom part of my wing, of my tail, this coat of this medium blue. I gotta lighten that up a little bit. Our tail is gonna be the same thing. So I'm gonna do my nice medium blue across the bottom here, but we've already drawn our tail. So I'm just doing a thin coat of paint down here just to change the color. Okay, so I've got that light blue. So now I have my, I guess I have my my medium blue down here, here, and here, okay? So I'm gonna do my turquoise color, my medium turquoise color, midway up my tail. And I'm gonna do this. You don't have to do it feather for feather. You can fit as many feathers in here as you want. Okay. Once I have those 3 blue sections, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to get all the water off my brush. I'm going to give you guys a second just to make sure y'all are okay on these wings. Are the wings going okay for you guys? Okay. Okay. The top part of our wing is the light color that we used on our cherries to make that U. I need to make a little bit more of that. And all that was white and red. White and red. Makes a really pretty pink color. Dark, dark, dark pink. So make sure you have some of that color available if you don't mix them up. Okay. I'm gonna start down at my tail here, and I'm just gonna do a couple of feathers in here. Now I have a smaller amount of feathers in the top red part of my tail than I do on my blue sections, okay? So if you need to make, I'm gonna start in the middle here, and I might just make my feathers a little bit bigger. I'm gonna start in the middle so I can really see how many I need to do. And I'm gonna draw them. I'm gonna make them bigger than my brush is gonna allow if I were just to do one paint stroke, okay? So that's maybe about 2 in width. So I'm gonna do 1, I'm gonna try to do about 5, or maybe 6 at the most. But I really don't want many, and I want them to kind of pull inward, okay? I'm gonna have to paint around my flower here a little bit. Okay. And that red or pink, whatever it is, it might not show up super bright right now, and that's okay. When you do your paint pen later, it will pop for sure. And when you get to the base of the tail, you can leave it kind of unfinished. I'm leaving kind of almost like a little scallop almost right there. Because later, look at what our paint pen does. You see that little scallop in there? Okay. Okay. So once again, I'm gonna do this with my wing, only I'm gonna cap my wing. I'm gonna kind of give it a nice U shape up here. So I'm gonna maybe come in and do my first feather. Then I'm gonna come and I'm gonna make a U and bring down my last feather. Okay. And you can do as many feathers as you want in here. Go ahead and fill in that space. You're gonna do the same thing on the outside wing of your bird. I'm gonna come do this outside one first. I think I have too much paint on my brush. I'm gonna pull up, and I'm really gonna hug the side of my bird there. I know you might not be able to see that because of my background color, but I really only fit in like 2.5 feathers. Really came up close to him. And if it's not popping for you because of your background, that's okay. The paint pen will help us with that, okay? Okay. I love doing wings. I think they come out so pretty. I love all those layers and the colors. So there are some little white marks along the neck of our bird. White and red, right here. It's kind of a pattern, white, red, white, red, white, red. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do those red ones. And I have my brush, but I don't want a ton, I don't want a thick mark, okay? So I'm just really gonna use like the top 1/4 of my bristles, if that makes sense. And I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna be kind of quick, and I'm just gonna do a couple of little marks, just little dashes right across, just like so. I'm gonna drop that brush in the water. I am done with it for now. I think I'm actually just done with it completely. All we have to do now is our beak and our eye. Everything else is going to be done with a paint pen. Or it can be done with your detail brush and white paint. Just depends on what kind of mood you're in and what kind of painter you want to be or what you want to practice. Okay, so I'll show you guys once again where we're at and where we're going. You can see how much that paint pen adds. And my background color here dried a lot darker than I had anticipated. You can see how much darker it is. But it works, it still works. So when you're ready for our beak, I'm just gonna mix a little bit of white and yellow together. Make a nice medium, kind of a powdery yellow. And remember too, because we're mixing, you wanna roll your brush, especially because this is our detail brush. And we want our brush to have a nice point to it, okay? So you remember that flat part of our bird's face? That's where our beak is gonna go. And the top part of the beak slopes down as if it was just a part of the head. So if I were gonna continue this head, this hump on his head and coming up and around and down, my beak would just be an extension of it. So I'm just gonna come right out as if I were continuing to draw the line of my head, and I'm gonna form a triangle. You can make your beak as big as you want. It really will give your bird some personality. I'm gonna make him a little bit bigger. I'm gonna wipe off that yellow. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of that darker pink that we just used for our wing. And right at the base, right up in here, I'm gonna just put in a little bit of that pink color. Like so. Get real close for you to see. Okay. I'm gonna clean off that pink. And now I'm gonna go in for some white. Make sure there's no water on your brush. I'm gonna go in for the eye. Now the eye is just a simple round circle, okay? And it is aligned like with the top part of your beak, where the top part of your beak hits the face of your bird is about where the top of your eye is gonna be. So I'm just gonna kind of find that spot and come over, kind of put a little dot there and put in my eye. And that's gonna look kind of funny at first. It's gonna be a round circle. Paint your circle slow. Okay. Nice thin layer. You want it to be a nice thin layer because you want it to dry pretty quick. Because once it's dry, you're gonna go in with a clean brush on your detail brush, a little bit of black paint. See how I have just the tiniest bit of black paint on my brush? And you're gonna paint a circle inside of the circle of your eye that almost eclipses. It is so very close to the same size. So it just gives a white rim around a black eye. So this next part is really where our painting starts to pop and pull together. So if you think that some of your painting is a little sloppy or you just don't like something, it doesn't feel very pulled together, when we start working with the paint pen, it's gonna change everything. So I'm gonna give you guys a minute to catch up if you need to, finish your beak or your eye or something, maybe it's your wing, your tail, and I'm gonna go grab a paint pen. I'll be right back. Now, some of you guys have new paint pens, whether it's from your Ultimate kit or just your basic paint kit that you got from me in the mail or you picked up from the shop. So go ahead and open it up. And if you've never used a paint pen before, you're just gonna wanna shake it. That's the first thing you're gonna wanna do is just shake it really good. And you're gonna hear that shaker ball in there shaking up all the pigment. That's very important because these paint pens will separate. And when you start using them, you'll just get like a clear or a very, very faint line, and you don't want that. So shake it really, really good, okay? The second thing that you're gonna wanna do is take off the cap, and especially if this is a brand new pen that you've never used before, let me grab my notebook so I can show you what to do. You're gonna want to just take it on some paper or your palette, you're just gonna wanna press it. You'll notice that you can press down and the head of the pen will disappear inside of the body of the pen. Okay, you're gonna wanna press down and kind of hold it down until you can see the white pigment starting to come through, okay? Now you wanna be very careful because you wanna do this on paper because it might start to bleed or it might take a long time. Every paint pen is different. Sometimes the pigment will just rush right out, and sometimes you have to like click it a million times. So sometimes you can just go like this. See, I'm just pressing it down and that gets the pigment to kind of start flowing. Or like I said, you can just hold it down, press it down, hold it down, and it will start to kind of flow a little bit, okay? So you can kind of roll excess pigment off the top of the side of your paper if you need to. But you want a good kind of flow going when you start using these, okay? You do want to watch your pen as you're using it. When you start drawing with it, you want to be careful that you are applying a very light amount of pressure when you draw. If you press down, you are going to activate the part of the pen that releases the ink, and you'll pull ink out of the bottom, kind of like we were just pressing on my notebook and you could see the ink starting to come out. That will happen on your painting, okay? So be very careful when you're drawing with this. Just have light pressure, just be a light drawer, okay? Draw very easily. Don't press hard because you will spill all over your painting and that won't be fun to fix, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing with my paint pen, and you can follow pace with me if you want to, or you can just kind of watch how I do it and then do it at your own speed. You might want to go a little bit slower than the way I'm gonna go, but just look up every once in a while and watch how I do certain things. There's not really a science to it. If you have the image of this painting pulled up, you can follow and you can look at all the lines just fine. I like to do some of these things a little bit quickly because I find when I draw quickly, I draw smoother lines. If I really go slow and I really take my time, sometimes my lines are kind of wibble wobbly and I don't quite do what I'd like to do. So with that said, I'm actually gonna turn my painting upside down it's going to be easier for me to get some of these shapes down here. So I'm going to start with these big leaves down here. And like I said, you do not have to keep up with me, but if you want to, go for it. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is we are not outlining our cherries. So when you start outlining these leaf shapes, you're going to want to start drawing and then skip over those shapes and come around. Now, I can tell already, for some reason, that my paint pen is not as bright as I want it to be. So I'm going to dab it a little bit more over here and try to get more of the pigment to flow. See if I can get it a little bit darker. Sometimes it just takes more shaking, but make sure you shake it out to the side of you. It will splatter, or put the cap on. That's always a good safe bet. Okay, let's see if that makes it better. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I outlined my outer shape of my leaf, and then I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna draw in the inner shape. Look at how much brighter that is. Okay, I am gonna draw a little wobbly too tonight, so bear with me because I'm drawing out to the side instead of like focused down on a table. So these lines might be a little silly, but we'll see how they go. I'm gonna go ahead and just outline all of these guys. Now you don't have to get too caught up in outlining around them perfectly, okay? Oh, that's good. I got a little bit of paint pen on my arm, and then I just put it right there down on my bird's wing. I'm gonna fix that real quick before I forget. Okay. There we go. Okay, so back at it. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw those inner lines. And you know, you can do as many of these as you want. If you wanna do 2 or 3, keep layering and layering and layering on the inside of these, that could be really cool. You could really go to town with a paint pen. You could draw as many designs as you want. You can make up different designs as you go. I mean, really, whatever. It's a little bit tricky over here by the tail, but just do your best. Pull out those different shapes the best you can. So you want to give each leaf an inner leaf, for lack of a better word there. Try not to get my hand in the way too much for you here, but so you're just following the lines that you've already drawn. But it really does just polish everything up for you. And every once in a while, if you notice your paint pen kind of running out of ink, you just need to go back to your spare sheet of paper or your palette and just press it down a couple of times to get that ink flowing again. Okay, so I have all of my leaves outlined and I've got the inner leaves done. Okay, so now I'm gonna move over to my beak. And right at the beak, I've just got a couple of quick little lines on that pink part. You see those? Just quick little guys, just like so. And then I have them on the neck of my bird in between my red lines. I have some of these little white lines as well. Okay. And now I'm gonna start on my tail. And then I'm gonna work my way up my bird, okay? So my tail, I'm gonna do like a nice tight little scallop down here. Even if it doesn't match what I've painted, that's okay. That's the cool thing about a paint pen is you can kind of manipulate what you've painted to be what you want it to be because you have more control because you're writing like with a pen. Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and individually outline each one of my feathers here. And that really helps make that dark pink pop. I love that. Really helps. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to individually outline each one of my light blue feathers. Now, the cool thing about this too is you really want all of your feathers to have their own sort of identity, their own shape. So look at what happened when I outlined. Every feather is different, which is way cool. You want every feather to have a different shape. Now my feathers at the bottom of my tail, you want to give them more of a point. So I'm pointing them with my paint pen. You can really kind of pick up the pace with the feathers. They're so repetitive. I think it's really soothing. I love doing stuff like that. Okay, I'm gonna start up at the top of my bird, my wing up here. And come down. I'm sorry if you can't see. Now I don't go all the way to the top of my wing with my red one. Some of them I go up a little higher than others. I kind of alternate a little bit. You see that? Some of them go up a little bit more than halfway. Some of them don't. Okay, and then I just go right on down. Now you do want to make sure that your paint is dry before you start doing too much detail work. You do not want to be drawing with a wet paint pen, or I'm sorry, your wet paint pen on your wet paint. That is no fun. Now this bottom part of the wing is the only part of the wing where the lines actually carry up to the top part of the wing. So what I mean by that is, see in this middle part, I just halfway go up or a little bit more, I scallop. But here I travel down and go all the way up and touch the light blue part of the wing. Does that make sense? Okay. The last thing I need to do with my paint pen is do the outside of my bird's wing. So I'm just gonna be very kind of light-handed here and get some nice lines. And there you have it. Now there's lots of things for me, writing with a paint pen is so much fun. I want to keep going. I want to draw more things out here. I want to add dots or flowers or, do a couple of more layers in here and add more design work. So feel free to go crazy. I mean, I think it's a super fun kind of style and you can really kind of make it your own. So when you are done with your paint pen though, please put the cap back on and make sure that it's pressed in really nice and tight because you don't want it to dry out. And those of you who have Ultimate Paint Kits, you guys keep your paint pens, but those of you who are returning them, please either stick them in the addressed envelope that I sent in your kit or just drop them back by the shop too when you drop off your paintbrushes, okay? So let me show you the original painting and tonight's painting so you can see the difference. Our background color is a little bit different. Our bird has a slightly different personality. I think it's cool though, seeing the two paintings side by side. You can see I'm the artist, I'm the same person, but every painting always comes out so very different. And I'm really excited to see how your painting came out. Send me pictures. Oh, beautiful, Gloria. Beautiful, beautiful line work. I love seeing that.
Yeah, this was fun.
It is fun. It's a nice different style, right? Yeah.
I added an extra line inside of my
They look kind of blank. I think I made them fat.
I like it though. I like it. I think it's really nice. You
Okay.
could, if you want to, you see the line, how do I describe it? Let's see. See the line, you could bring your line all the way up and all the way down, and you could divide that space a little bit more if you wanted to. Like down in here on mine were all touching. So instead of it looking like one big shape, like almost a
Okay.
flower, you'd make individual leaves.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I got it.
Diane, let me see yours. You were holding it up, but. So one thing that you can do when you're totally done painting, you guys, oh, so pretty. Nice line work. Your bird's personality is very elegant. That's another thing about painting animals too. It's so fun because the animals always take on this personality.
Diane. Oh, I like it. Very nice.
Cute.
She always sends me a picture over the phone.
Oh.
I have to work on the beak.
The beak.
Yeah.
What do you have issues with the beak?
I feel like I need to make the beak a little bit longer.
I would agree with you. A little bit longer, even maybe a little bit wider. You could even, if you were still having issues with it, you could even outline it with your paint pen and pull it out even more. Or even just the top part of the beak, not the bottom, but the top part. You could do a nice white line kind of sloping downward.
I'm gonna mix up some white and yellow and see how I land.
Okay, that's a good idea. See what happens there. Okay, so when you are totally done with your painting, you need to do a couple of things for me. One, please take a picture and send it to me. I would love to see how it turned out. I don't care if you are doing the recording a week from now or tomorrow, whatever it is, I would love to see a picture of your painting. I always enjoy how those come out. Also, please go ahead and wash your brushes. Don't leave them in your water overnight or laying on a paper towel. Go ahead and just rinse them with warm water. Get all the paint out of them. You don't need to use soap or anything like that, but just make sure that the water runs nice and clear, and then just lay them out on a paper towel to dry overnight, and then either pop them in that envelope that I sent in your kit or bring them back by the shop for me so that I can sanitize them and then send them back out next week for kits, okay? So that's right, send picture and return brushes, and I think we're gonna do paintings for the rest of September. But October, we're gonna take that month off of painting. We're gonna be out of town, and we're gonna be doing Round Top, and so we're just gonna be a little bit crazy. So there will probably be a pumpkin popping up here pretty soon, because we have to. You know, it's almost fall, and everybody loves painting pumpkins. So maybe next week won't be the pumpkin, but maybe the week after that'll be a pumpkin, and that'll be our last class for a while, okay?
April, what are you doing in Round Top?
We set up at Zap Hall. So our shop just does like a little pop-up shop out there.
Oh, okay. Are they going to have it?
They are. Every
Okay.
field is a little different. So the field that we set up is in Warrenton, and it's Zap Hall. And so they've just kind of condensed it. So instead of it being about 2 weeks, it's only about a week. So I'm excited. We're excited about that. Yes, Diane. That's what you needed to do. Good. Nice work.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Mom goes to Round Top every year. That's why she wanted to know where you were going to be.
Oh, gotcha. Very cool. Do you have specific fields that you like to hit?
No, not specifically. I go to in the spring because I'm an herbie.
Sure.
So I go to the Opera House there and to the Herbal Forum, and I spend the whole weekend there. We spend the night in the little cabins and stuff, and then they have a huge plant sale.
Oh,
It's,
that's awesome.
with a lot of herbs, more herbs than probably I can find anywhere else, but they canceled it this year. It's a good thing because I know them all so well. They let us go up and have a private so we could buy things at cost. so we bought a lot of stuff home so that we could do our plant sale, and then ours got canceled. So
Oh,
we've been
you got a whole
babysitting.
bunch of plants.
I do. I have a whole bunch of plants that we've been babysitting. But we're going to do a virtual sale, and then in the spring we'll see what we do. I hope we don't, because we have hundreds of plants.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because one lady grows them from seed. A lot of us take cuttings.
Mhm.
We have several people that take cuttings. So, yeah. So I hope this mess is over with so that
I
we
know.
can enjoy ourselves again.
I agree. I
But
agree.
thank you. This was fun. I'm going to take a picture and send it to you.
Thank you, Gloria. I always love having you. And you too, Diane. I'm glad you guys were able to join me tonight. Let me know if you want the recording just to have it. And I'll figure out what next week is, and we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah, you can send me the recording. That would be great.
Sure. Not a problem at all.
Okay.
Good night, you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That was